I think that goes with the consistency. One of the things that's particularly challenging is if you have a organization that has any kind of global reach, you find yourself in a situation where you're attempting to comply with multiple regions at the same time. And you may even get engaged with consumers that want to exercise rights that they don't technically have. Like in the US, we have what we like to euphemistically call the patchwork quilt approach to privacy. But that means that there's a significant number of US states that don't actually have data privacy legislation in place. So in those cases, falling back on that transparency and that consistency, you could engage the consumer one way where you basically say, oh, I'm sorry, you're in a state that doesn't have data privacy rights and we're not going to recognize that. Or you could set that baseline and say, for all of our consumers, regardless of where you come from, we're going to do our best to honor that set line and say, like, even though you may come from, specific to the US, you may come from a region that doesn't have data privacy laws, we're going to go ahead and respect that as if you did. Specifically for us, we use, if we either can't identify where a data subject is coming from, or they haven't specified what region they're in, we set Colorado, because Colorado has a very robust data privacy law in place. We set that as the baseline and give basically any of our consumers those same rights as they would have if they were a Colorado citizen.
And adding to that, to my mind, giving users control over how much information they share, really this is allowing the user to determine how deep their relationship with your organization will be. So if by giving the user this ability to determine how deep their relationship is be, then respecting their choices here, you are kind of helping to, demonstrably respecting their choices. This kind of helps build trust with the user.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That also answered, like, we have a question in the chat right now, and I feel that you just both answered that question. Like, this person is saying, like, that research showed that regulatory compliance may not be sufficient to gain consumer trust, and not like just complying with the law is not going to gain consumers their trust. As comply with the law is just like the baseline, but as Dan was saying, if you're in a state that doesn't have a consumer law, or in a country that doesn't really protect your privacy, like, people are still expecting the companies to like have like a minimum respect for your data, and also like a baseline transparency of like giving people the information so they can like know how to act and how to interact with the company, and giving them, as like coming back to the control, like giving them control even if that is not specifically required by law, like giving control to the customers, enable them to like trust in whatever we're doing with their data as a company, and that we're going to use it responsibly and legally.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's that idea of treating it as a baseline, because I think you're correct. I think that's correct, that the expectation now is that that consumers have control over their information, and they should. There's a very reasonable expectation. The reality is not every region recognizes that, but as an organization, that becomes sort of a strategy or an ethical approach to basically saying, yes, we're going to go ahead. We're not even going to acknowledge that you're coming from a region that doesn't have that. We're going to go ahead and set you in a region that does, and just honor it. And it goes toward that communication piece as well.